Hello and welcome to In Conversation With, the monthly podcast series brought to you by the team that produced the Global Cosmetics newsfeed. I'm your host, Siobhan Murphy. Today, we're diving deep into the top consumer, technology, environmental, financial, and regulatory trends that are set to shape the cosmetics industry in 2025. With an overwhelming array of information, it's often challenging to separate hype from substance. This episode aims to cut through the noise, spotlight the trends with real longevity and impact. From cutting-edge AI innovations to the rising influence of socially conscious businesses, 2025 will demand agility, customer focus, and sustainability from companies across the cosmetic value chain. But the big question is, which trends are here to stay and why? To help us unpack this, I'm thrilled to welcome back Arnita Wofford, a seasoned industry professional and the current Chief Marketing Officer at Swatch. Arnita has spent her career identifying, strategizing, and monetizing trends, making her the perfect guide for this discussion. Welcome back to the podcast, Arnita.
Hi, Siobhan. Thank you so much for having me. What a wonderful way to start off this Friday morning than talking about 2025 trends. I'm very excited and very honored.
Great. Let's start with consumers then. With the rise of the discerning consumer, we're seeing a growing demand for frictionless experiences from discovery all the way through to post-purchase. What consumer trends are you tracking in 2025?
So many things. As a busy mother of two, I would say time is one of the greatest things that we can give as a gift. And I think it's our responsibility in this industry to make beauty as timeless as possible, but also not very time consuming. I think that the year ahead is going to be full of self-expression. And I do mean self-expression, like blowing it up, whether that's through color, through shape, through augmented reality, through stickers. We saw a little bit of the rise of face art and face fun with masks and stickers through the Taylor Swift era this summer. But I think the body as a canvas, as a piece of art, and using brute materials, whether that's the research for the most natural, the closest to nature as possible, that's going to be more and more prevalent with the choice of the brands and the materials, the ingredients, continuously focusing on how do I get as close to nature as possible in what I'm putting into and onto my body. And that's why we're seeing so much around biohacking, so much around a decrease in synthetics. There's this war on synthetics, which, right or wrong, consumers have that opinion sometimes. But we as industry professionals understand that there are some great fake synthetics, and most of them are relatively necessary in formulations, and that naturals don't replace everything. Plant-based doesn't replace everything, and we still have a long way to go before it does. But I do think that we will continue to see a rise in product launches that focus on the plant-based, the renewable, because that's what the earth needs, that's what the industry needs, and ultimately that's what's going to drive innovation in the future. I also think that perhaps if we really deep dive into it, we're going to see a continuous influence from the East. And I would like to say that I hope that perhaps this is going to lead to a breakthrough in local versus global. And what I mean by that is the trends from Asia have been driving the trends in Europe and in the US for so many years. And they are very close to nature, but in a fun way. They always seem to create products that are very highly functional and performing, but have so much fun in use. And I think that it's inspiring how we shape the beauty industry. But as imports are going to be a challenge, whether or not that's finished product, ingredients, given what's going on politically, I think for sure going to feed this local first community request. So there will be a lot more around what can I produce in Europe? What can I produce in the US? What ingredients can we really channel here? And how do we make those ingredients work in product formulation? So I think hopefully that's going to inspire more innovation. and that brands will start to capitalize and have a preference for what's local and natural in their space. And hopefully that'll have a knock-on effect, ecologically speaking, where we have less shipping and decreasing our carbon footprint. And that the customer base will really latch onto it and there'll be a whole trend around it. And that will help grow communities and grow brands more locally. I also hope to think that textures will evolve, that nature close textures like milks and waters and these floral vibes will have a rise in 2025 as we try to get closer to nature.
Thinking about self-expression, Arnita, where do you see that developing?
So I think we're going to see a regeneration. This everything that's new, this consumer saturation is at a turning point for beauty. And I think it's time for us to reconcile sustainability and impact with the bottom line. We've been talking about rollbacks in DI, rollbacks in sustainability goals, and the long-term impact. And that all still needs evaluation and a consumer push to move the needle. And I think that's definitely going to happen in 2025. And it's the same with inclusivity. True inclusivity, we're still not there. We're so far from that. As an industry, marketing has improved for sure. Formulations and ingredients, not so much. There are incremental improvements, but nothing drastic. And I think we have to make sure that this huge population of Black and Brown consumers are included from product conception to efficacy testing. It's all crucial. How can you expect a consumer to be happy with the results of the product that you're presenting if you weren't really thinking about them when you started making the product? And by that, they weren't your target audience to begin with. They can't be your target audience when you decide to market it. So skincare is queen and always will be queen with a holistic focus. And we've seen that. We keep talking about that. But I also think that body category will continue to grow in 2025. People are just realizing that their skin goes beyond the face. So new body products and better feeling body products and active ingredient led body products we'll see a lot more benefits from those in 2025. So I think those are great spaces to watch.
On the subject of inclusivity, is it because there isn't a person in the room that we're not producing more products for, like, formulating for inclusive skin?
I think it's a multi-pronged problem. I think from the beginning, if you're looking at skin as a whole, there's not enough dermatologists that are Black and Brown to begin with across the globe. If the dermatologists themselves aren't recognizing the skin problems, then the brands aren't formulating to actually answer those skin problems. And then if you look at formulations as a whole, if you can't identify, because formulators aren't just robots, they're innovators, they're inventors. So they also are coming up with solutions to problems for the skin. And if it's not your skin, then you can't know the problem exists. So diversity across the board is important from the dermatology standpoint to the formulation standpoint. And for sure, even in the marketing standpoint, to have the wherewithal to propose, hey, I think we should be targeting a product brief that answers these questions, and then send that to your lab and then have them test it with certain dermatologists, et cetera. It's for me, it's a 360 problem.
Yes, because most of the testing that is done for any cosmetics product is done on, I believe, white males. That's what I've been told from other people's suppliers in the industry.
Typically, you pick two skin types. You pick European, so that could be across the board Europe. And you also try Asian skin because that's a big market. But you rarely pick Latin. You rarely pick African American unless your product is specifically targeting that audience.
Again, it's a matter of cost. The cost is greater for the brands to test everybody. Is that correct?
It would be. But I would wager that given the spend of those particular consumer groups, that the benefit would outweigh the cost.
The thinking about the opposite to nature and moving on to technology, the cosmetics industry has embraced AI in consumer interactions. But how might it evolve beyond current expectations? Could 2025 see deeper integration of blockchain and AI solutions? Large language models and other AI tools have been revolutionizing industries. How might they streamline internal operations and drive innovation in the beauty space? So, which technology trends will you be tracking in 2025?
I am really into understanding accessible tech. And by that, I mean in store, at home, online systems, devices, and tools that allow us to upgrade our beauty routines. Is that on an ingredient level? So if I'm being selfish, is that something that I can install with my company that makes us more efficient in screening ingredients, in formulating with ingredients? I'm hoping that we have some more solutions available. As a consumer, I feel like that's going to democratize the applications to smaller companies, but also to different consumer brands, allowing us to diagnose problems because that's at the heart of the problem. If we look at it, your skin, you have a plethora of options of what to put on it, but you don't necessarily have a response, a correct response to your actual problem. And so you continue to fuel the industry, fuel growth by buying lots of different options that you hope will work. But once we're able to really deep dive and use tools like AI to help diagnose problems and learn how to treat those problems, and then I'll add a third element to that, which is still the human piece, and then tie that into a medical diagnostic if necessary. I think it's going to be game changing. And there's lots of tools that exist today, but they're not always accessible. And so that's why I started that statement with accessible tech. You've got L'Oreal obviously leading it with the Beauty Genius app, and Lancome launched a couple of apps as well. And there's a lot of wearable tech that's helping us biohack and be the healthiest possible, but that's not accessible to everyone. You have to have a certain level of knowledge in the industry. You have to be that beauty guru. You also have to have a lot of funding to be able to work with some of these different AI technologies. And I think AI and personalization is such an open field. It's such a space where if we can get down to the DNA level and ensure that our nutrition is fueling the right nutraceuticals, or that it's really helping us discern the right type of beauty product, that's absolutely game changing. If you just look at men's beauty alone, men and tech go together, right? And I think it's just going to help fuel the men's beauty space even more by allowing them to have this relationship with a product and something that they're much more familiar with, which is tech. So introducing it as a segue, introducing it into the beauty space, being able to understand what the problem is, understand how you can integrate tech and beauty in the men's skincare, men's makeup. The opportunities are endless. So I'm looking forward to those particular advances in tech.
Yeah, that's really interesting, men and tech. I completely see what a man would put a product on and want to see what the moisturization possibly level is in his skin once it's on. Yes, that would be the interaction between the beauty product, the AI technology, and the interest, the human part, which is the part that you keep bringing up. Very interesting idea there, Anita. You got me thinking. You've got me thinking. Wow. Okay, so let's move on to the other elephant in the room, which is environment. So, as consumers grow more socially and environmentally conscious, businesses in 2025 are facing increasing pressure to prioritize sustainability. So, that's from the consumers, yeah? From packaging to production. But how are companies rethinking their value chain? How are they really doing that? So, what are the environmental trends that you will be keeping an eye on in 2025?
So I'm going to be brutally honest here. I am not excited about any 2025 environmental trends because I just don't see it. I see a continuation of the same old. And I'm hoping I'm wrong, but we've just seen a lot of pushback, rollback, rollovers of, yeah, oh, finally it's not going to be great for business, or we've had to reevaluate. So I'm not seeing a move forward. I'm really seeing a lot of steps backwards in terms of goals. And it's disappointing, but I do think that it has to go beyond the consumer. Consumers are requesting it. Businesses aren't listening because it's not great for the bottom line at the moment. And it's only going to get worse. So we have to figure out how to respond to an environmental need that's not going to go away. The clock is ticking. The deadlines just keep getting closer. And we keep taking a step back, like, oh, that's going to have to wait. Yeah, I don't have a great response to that question because I'm not seeing it.
We are about to enter the second era of Trumponomics. Coupled with the rising global tensions, these factors will inevitably affect the supply chain, trade dynamics, and cost control strategies in 2025. So, could these financial trends be the thing that would push the environmental need forward?
And it could be. Switch is a small company. We're brand new. And impact is at the center of everything we're trying to do. And it's still a challenge. So, new tariffs on supply chains will completely reshape how we have to price, how we think about shipping, importing, exporting, how our partners will be working with their customers in the different regions where we're served through distribution. So, I do see it as a potential tipping point for real environmental shift because at the bottom line, I think I said this on a podcast episode with you a while back. At the bottom line, our industry is all about revenue. It's a revenue stream at the end of the day. As soon as something really hits that revenue stream, we find a solution. And this particular Trump tariff debacle, if you will, for sure will hit our revenue stream. So we're going to have to find multiple solutions in order to keep having double-digit growth, which is what everybody wants.
And do you think that the industry is prepared for another COVID-like shock, which could be what the Trump tariffs might happen?
Some people may be. I think big players for sure, and visionaries. Smaller companies who were visionary, who were smart enough to diversify, to have manufacturing in different spaces, to look at how they could locally work on their supply chains, locally work on streamlining formulations. Yeah, those people will survive because they've thought about it and they've made the strides and done the necessary work to prepare. But I think some people, no, they were resting on the laurels of having year after year be great post-COVID. And the industry saw a huge boom. So now that boom might be a bust if you're not prepared.
So thinking about being prepared, looking ahead at new legislation from the US and EU, which is poised to reshape the industry, emerging markets are also introducing their own regulatory frameworks. We just have to look at Australia banning social media for under 16s. So, what regulatory trends do you anticipate will have the biggest impact in 2025?
I think we were a little too fast and a little too furious in 23 and 24, if I'm honest. I think we're going to be in a holding pattern for the near future because there's already so much. If I'm a brand, there's already so much for me to understand, to implement, to try to keep up with these changes. My treasury has to be extremely on point in order for us to continue to survive. And I'm not talking about multi-billion-dollar brands, but the smaller ones. And the industry, as we know, the trends are all built on those smaller brands making things happen and continuing the conversation. If we are talking about making major regulatory changes and shifts again in 2025, I think it's not setting us up for success. I think we need to do the work on what's already in place before we start trying to tackle other things.
Indeed. And just to wrap things up, Arnita, which cosmetic trend excites you the most in 2025 and why? Which one do you think will have the most longevity?
I think 2025 is going to be a colorful and bold year, despite what Pantone has put out around its mocha mousse. I'm not a fan. So I really think it's going to be a colorful and bold year from fashion to life, beauty has always been a contrast to political and environmental climates. And those are not rosy at the moment. So I think we are going to come out and be very bold in this new year. And so I'm excited about the new ingredients that are coming because there's a lot of next generation beauty that we can make if we just have the right, very cool tool to make that happen. So I think that the beauty ingredient manufacturers have been very hard at work for the last couple of years. And we've seen already some things being launched at Incause Global, Incause Asia this year. Very interesting ingredients. And I think that's going to continue to happen to have this shift to move the natural beauty movement forward. I'm always a sucker for new formats and new textures. And I am looking forward to that with my consumer hat on in natural beauty for 2025.
Thank you so much, Arnita, for joining us today and sharing your invaluable insights. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in.